Hey everybody, it's Helix. Today I'm playing Desert Storm: The 100-Hour War, a hex encounter war game by Eric Harvey, produced by Accurate Simulations. This game covers the first Iraq War, Desert Storm, in the early 90s, where coalition forces sought to seize territory from Saddam Hussein and relieve him of various weapons of mass destruction and key locations. This game popped up for me after I had kind of gotten into some other war games like The Next War and some others, and surely after my algorithm found out that I'd been watching that press brief by General Norman Schwarzkopf several times. It's an incredible video. I'll link it in the description. If you haven't seen it already, it's probably the reason that I'm into wargaming at all. So this game is really interesting. It's not nearly as complex as some of the games that I've played, like Next War and others. It's actually really, really quick and easy to learn, quick to play, but the level of strategy and the kind of interplay and tug of war you get between the coalition and Iraqi forces it's a super interesting tug of war. So obviously the goal of this game can't just be the incursion of coalition forces and the seizure of these territories. It would be a little bit easy for them. The forces they have indicated at the bottom here, all of these khaki colored tokens, are technologically overwhelming compared to the Iraqi forces here, who have largely untrained or less professional infantry. They've got the Republican Guard, but they're very limited in number, and they have a lot of territory to defend. So how can the Iraqi forces actually hope to stand a chance in this? Well, it's because this game isn't just won by military victory. You have these card suits up top, and these are your victory counter trackers. The Iraqi forces start with these two up front, but what this is throughout the whole game, there's a race going. The coalition forces with the tan counters and the Iraqi forces with these sort of olive drab green counters are trying to move them along the right of this track. The winner is the side that ends the game with three, or in the lead in three of these suits. So these suits represent different types of victory, if you will. So again, it's not all about military conquest. You've got, let's see, I'm gonna pop open the rule book just so I don't get these wrong. You've got political achievements, so that's political influence and power by the Joker. You've got moral achievements, so demonstrating the opponent is the greater evil. Heart is diplomatic achievement, so convincing the world that your war aims are right and fair. Military achievement, which is revealing that the enemy has inferior forces. And economic achievement, so attaining or at least preserving economic prosperity. So no side, unless one player is really struggling, is likely to win on all fronts. So there's going to be that tug of war. And how do you move those things along the track? Well, a couple of different ways. The start of every turn involves the attempt to play various cards. These cards come from a deck. They represent various real-world things that actually happened or could have happened, I think, in some cases. Things like the US stock market crash and so on and so forth. And those have effects. So for example here, if the coalition forces play this card where Bush will say this will not stand, and they succeed at it, they have to roll between a 1 and a 3, they would get 1 point in Joker, so the political side. So that would move this one up this way. The other way to do it is to control key territories. So there is Baghdad as sort of like a key site, and I think Kuwait City, if I'm not mistaken. I'll have to double check in the rules, but those add heart. Spades, again, this is like that moral victory, so chemical weapons, nuclear, those, and then burning oil fields. Capturing and holding those territories will advance you along that track. Then diamonds are economic prosperity, so you have oil and gas. And then clubs are the sort of humiliation of enemy forces. So that's Scuds and missile sites and ballistic missiles, whatever. So those are the kinds of things, if you capture them on the map, because there will actually be icons on the map for those things. You can see some of the burning oil fields here. That will advance you along that track. So it's tug of war. In addition to that, coalition forces are very sensitive to casualties, or rather their home fronts are. So the Iraqis, Saddam and his forces here don't really care if some of these infantry start to fall. but the coalition forces care a lot if they start to exhaust and lose units. So I think it's something like for every coalition unit that actually is lost, the Iraqi forces gain a club, if I'm remembering those rules correctly. So the coalition forces have to play it carefully. There needs to be a balance of aggression and speed, and also sound strategy and tactics, and careful decision making. So a few other things. Across this map, there are land forces, which are typically infantry. You've got some mechanized, you've got some armor, and those are land units. And then you've got air units. So Coalition, for example, have various airfields across Saudi Arabia down here, and they have a fleet in the Persian Gulf, which are represented by some carriers. We've got an A6, F-18 Hornet, and some Marine expeditionary units there. Throughout this game, both sides will be, after they play these cards and try to gain their benefits, they will be moving their forces around the map. And after a series of moves and an air phase, they will battle it out and then adjust their forces one final time, so they'll get one more point of movement, and then progress. So I think the best way to show this in action is to walk through some turns and actually start playing. There are some other things like the consideration of what's on the map. We've got roads and bridges, airfields, what looks to be kind of like, I'm not really sure because I haven't seen this yet. I'll have to get to it in the rules, but it's almost like marsh, not marsh, but maybe it's not desert. It's sort of like a more complex territory. I would assume that vehicles would move slower through it or something, but we'll find out. So these will be the first few turns that I have really played. I've gone through 1 through 3 already, or 1 and 2, and really enjoyed it enough. So I decided, you know what, I'm actually just going to record this and chronicle this because this is a very cool game. All right, let's see how turn 1 goes. Let's look at the layout of forces. So Iraqi forces have a group of Republican Guard, including their sort of Praetorian Guard division up here in Baghdad. And then other than that, there are infantry divisions and some other Republican Guard and tank divisions scattered all through Iraq here. You've got airfields all over the place, far too many for the number of planes, but that's because the Iraqi Air Force will use them. As coalition forces try to destroy those airfields, Iraqi forces will be shuttling planes back and forth between them and trying to stay evasive while nagging the coalition forces as they push up. Down here is where we get very, very dense with our units. So first off, we've got the area around Basra. We're coming down toward the coast of the Persian Gulf. And we have a lot of concentration of both Republican Guard units like these here, those 3, along with lots of infantry forces. We also have some strategic airfields down here. So this is where the Iraqi Air Force is concentrated right now. My opponent has decided to place, a couple planes. We've got a MiG-29 and an Su-24 here, a Mirage here, a MiG-21 here, MiG-25, and then down here I think there's one more airfield, a MiG-21 is on it. And we have the main defensive line here. This is a little different, so this is a slightly sort of altered version of the true historical scenario. So the units are not placed in accordance with real history in this case, but a slightly modified version. Kuwait City is defended by the heaviest Iraqi infantry division that they get. It's got a combat value of 3 and a mobility of 4. And then we've got some additional tank units scattered across this line. So it's sort of an alternating, it looks like infantry tank layout. And then a few forward units. So there's kind of a mix of line, forward units, reserve. So it looks like they're set up not necessarily for defense in depth, although maybe a little bit up front here. But that is the layout of the forces there for the Iraqis. For the coalition forces, we've got some Marine expeditionary units, showed these earlier. Down here we have a mix of Marine armored units as well as some Saudi forces. We've got some kind of mixed Saudi Senegalese forces around here, Omani forces from the UAE, and then some US, so the 24th Infantry and some other armored units here. And then way off here to the side, we have the 82nd Airborne and the 101st Airborne. Looks like they are positioning to make some strikes up north, crossing the desert. And then scattered across those air bases in Saudi Arabia, of course, are lots of different coalition air units. And these are, as the rulebook describes, one of the real game changers of the war. The Iraqi forces weren't expecting the level of technology that these planes had with smart bombs and microchips and the sort of advanced systems that hadn't really been seen in conflict yet. So we've got F-16s, Warthogs, Tornadoes, F-15s, F-111s, F-18s, B-52s, which have no air-to-air value. Same with the AC-130. So those probably need an escort. F-111 is the same. Great bomber, 5 for its bombing values, but 0 to protect itself. So that is a layout at the start of the game. Let's see how it changes. So turn 1 is complete. The cards have been drawn and played, and here's how it unfolded. I did forget to mention one thing. So I have the 30 Days to Baghdad is sort of like an expansion, sort of standalone-ish. Like it actually comes with its own mounted map board, and it fits nicely in the box with the original game. But you can't really play it, I don't think, without the core rulebook from Desert Storm. It does add, however, this nice expansion book, a supplement here. And this supplement changes the way that this game works a little bit. So originally, you would have just played these cards, and here's what happened. The Coalition played this Bush will not stand card, and it did not trigger. Rolled a 4, needed a 1 to 3. The Iraqi forces played this Saddam vows use of human shields. They rolled a 3, they got it. And so that, of course, will advance. And let me get my tongs ready here. They will advance their club's tracker there. So they've achieved, I guess, 1 victory point in that column, or that row, if you will. And that's how it would stop in the base game. But with this supplement, every single one of the cards has some kind of unique effect if triggered. So the Coalition forces did not trigger their card, so we can ignore that. The Iraqi forces, however, did trigger the use of human shields card. No Baghdad city hexes may be bombed this turn. So when we get to the Coalition air phase, if they wanted to try to go after, for example, some of these Republican Guard units in Baghdad, they couldn't, because for 1 turn, this human shields card is protecting Baghdad, if you will. So no benefit up front for the Coalition forces. If they had, what would happen if they had triggered that Bush will not stand card? It would have canceled the U.S. public support slips card if the Iraqis had played it, which is this one right here. Okay, so if they had played that. So that is the card phase. Let's see what happens next. So with the event cards played, we moved to the air mission phase, and the Iraqis here came out with a bit of a surprise strike. I don't know if it was a great idea. My opponent is laughing at me. Essentially, the Iraqis risked a whole bunch of their planes for some bombing runs in Saudi Arabia to strike at the mustering Coalition forces, and the Coalition forces responded with some planes of their own. So let's see how this all unfolded. All of this is resolved via simple rolls from this D6 here, and so here's how it unfolded. The airborne staging units over here on the west side of the map, the 82nd Airborne and the 101st Airborne, were attacked. You had a wing of Su-24s and a wing of MiG-29 strike at the 82nd Airborne and fail to damage the target on the ground, but in the air war above, a pair of F-16 wings responded. The F-16s drove back the MiG-29 and caused him to abort, and the F-16s here did unfortunately get reduced 1 step by return fire. This F-16 is unaffected. Over here, the Iraqi forces went after the 101st Airborne with a Mirage wing and a MiG-21 wing. They were a little more effective in some regards, maybe less. Depends on what these planes are going to be needed for in the future. But it drove away, the response drove away an F-15 wing and an F-16 wing, but not before both Iraqi units were reduced. However, despite being reduced, they still had an opportunity to make a ground strike. They hit the 101st Airborne and reduced it. So that's 2 Coalition units that have been reduced. That means the Iraqis were able to push their club's marker, so that's that military strength marker, forward, two more victory points on that side. You note that even though the Iraqi forces had 2 of their air wing units reduced, that does not earn the Coalition points. Down here in the southeast along the coast, and I'm going to mispronounce every name on this map, I'm sure, but Khafji, there was a strike from some MiG-21s and 25s on a Saudi
mechanized group here, the strike did not go well. So a pair of Hornets responded, one from a land airfield and one from the carrier group. They drove off the MiG-25. They reduced the MiG-21, and the MiG-21, with only a 1, can only really damage on a 1. So no dice there. The Saudi forces are still fine, and both planes will flee. So now we have the RTB phase. The coalition, I will move both or all of my planes back to their respective fields, not forgetting that one of my F-16s is reduced, and I'm going to have to do something about that. And then the Iraqi forces will also return their air units to any airfield on the map, and we will continue to the land movement phase. Okay, following movement, a few pieces have shuffled around here. So most importantly, the Republican Guard in Baghdad are shifting southward. A lot of infantry and tanks up in northern Iraq have sort of shifted around a little bit. I think it just feels like there's more of a front developing. I don't know if that's because of the anxiety around my air mobile units here. Seems a bit maybe premature, just given that the 101st is potentially waylaid with that reduction of force. But there's a lot of kind of bustling over here. Then I think there's also just been a down, like a southeastward shift of a lot of units over here. So a lot of these towns were occupied earlier, but the units, the tanks, the infantry have been shifting this direction and down to cover key strategic places like airfields or missile sites, etc. And then I think most of the movement has been down here. So the area around and just south of Basra has just commensurately shifted south. So there's a little defense now that we have been talking a little bit and learning a little bit about the naval rules and landings. I think there's maybe more anxiety from the Iraqi side on beach landings around here, so there's some consolidation around that. And then there's also been sort of like a shift maybe in some of the forces here. I think there's also some concern around the highly mobile 24th Infantry and others outflanking this. So some of these Republican Guard tanks have come down from Iraq and crossed the border into Kuwait and are positioning, it looks like, to act as QRGs for whatever's going to happen on this front. Infantry again shifting down. We've got tanks moving down here and parking in some of these burning oil fields. Those are the icons underneath these guys. If the coalition captures those, they gain spades. So it looks like there's maybe some attempt to prevent those. I think this was maybe an unadvisable move. So there's a division of infantry that have just been left dangling here with all these U.S. Marines and Saudi forces coming up to contest that area. But that's how it's laid out. We don't have any land combat triggering, so that phase is going to be skipped for this round, which means we go to a refit round. Let's see. I'm making sure that there's no advance after combat. Attacking land units do not advance into a vacated hex until after conducting a land attack. But the advanced phase that follows land, all land units to move 1 hex. Okay, so I'm gonna have to stop and ask if they want to move any more, because after this phase, then all units can move 1 hex. Will you? Okay, yeah, getting a head shake. So no movement in that case. I think they're happy with their positioning. So in that case, we move to refit. So in refit, the current player, so the Iraqi player, will pick 1 reduced land or air unit and rebuild them. So flip them back to their full strength side. And that is only applicable to units that are not destroyed. But we don't have any destroyed units just yet. So I'm assuming one of those airplanes that I was able to reduce with my cap or my response will be rebuilt into a full strength air unit. Unfortunately, I can't do that. So next turn, I will have a chance to. And I do have, again, 1 F-16 and then 101st. I think I'm going to have to do the 101st because everything that I've got planned for this side of the map hinges on them being full strength. So that is the end of the movement and the skipped combat phase and the refit phase, and we move forward. So we've just finished the card phase, and I'm getting
the worst luck here. So I rolled for Kuwaiti's employee for help. Had I succeeded on that, it was a 50% chance of success. The coalition would have gained the initiative and been the first turn taker each turn, I guess, or would have had the first impulse through being the first phasing player, whatever your terminology. But I failed, and the Iraqi player succeeded on U.S. public support slips, which really, really sucks for me because that means for this turn, no coalition land units may move. So with a lack of support in the U.S., even though that somehow impacts the Saudi and Omani and UAE forces, etc., nothing can move. So maybe that's not the worst because I was debating making a Hail Mary risk with my 101st against this infantry here. Maybe this is just telling me to slow down. But whatever, I will be focusing on an air campaign in that case. There are a lot of bombing targets, and if I bomb bridges, I can cut off that access and make the sort of movement point cost across that river more expensive. I can bomb roads if I want to reduce the road bonus in particular hexes. I can bomb strategic sites. So if I see these missile sites, these oil fields, etc., I can bomb those and get victory points for those. So the air campaign is huge for me. Luckily, I've got a lot of assets at my fingertips, so I will be exercising those, and we will see how this bombing phase carries out. Okay, so wrapping up the air phase for the coalition side on turn one, things were pretty bloody for the Iraqi forces. So the U.S. and German allies have carried out strikes on a number of different facilities up here. O, which is the Uqadir missile storage site, N, which is the Al Mutasim missile facility, E-Echo, which is the Al Yarmouk missile facility, and then 2 nuclear sites in Baghdad. Let's see if we can't get this camera to defeat the overhead lights here. Gulf, which is the Tuwaitha nuclear complex, and Charlie, which is the Tariq research facility. So in each one of those strikes, the coalition forces overcame whatever defenses were there and successfully destroyed the site. On the southwest most at Oscar, we've got a reduced MiG-29 unit, and they sent this Hornet group retreating but undamaged. The Tornadoes finished the job. Here at November, this MiG-25 was reduced by this Hornet, which was also sent fleeing while the AC-130 cleaned up the job. And then here at Echo, uncontested, and so those forces were able to go ahead and destroy that site. And then uncontested here at both of these strikes in Baghdad. So we're going to place some markers here to indicate the destruction of these facilities. I can't farm them for points. So we've had a lot of successes here, and actually I need one more token. That's a lot. So very successful air campaign, not entirely surprising. We're gonna go ahead and RTB with these guys. But that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points of clubs. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which puts the coalition in the lead on the military side. So I'm gonna find out where my opponent wants to rebase her damaged fighters. She didn't end up taking turns elsewhere. You'll see that this MiG-21 was reduced and this MiG-21 was reduced already. This Su-24 is pretty lousy in air-to-air. So not a lot of options here for responses. The strongest air-to-air fighters did respond and kind of got slapped around for doing so. I think she's gonna have to take some time to recover those forces over the next turn or two, at least the most critical ones like that MiG-29, which is the 6-point air-to-air. So nearly a guaranteed hit, but very unlucky for the Hornets. I think this is the second air phase in a row where the MiG-29 has rolled on a 6, which just makes the target abort their attack or abort their move rather than take any damage or flip over anything. So that means that this 3 didn't end up contributing, but it didn't need it. The Tornado succeeded on its own. So very successful air phase, kind of makes up for the lack of movement from the coalition side thanks to this support slips card, but we'll see how the next turn unfolds.
Right on cue, the coalition side has had a number of reinforcements join the battle. So we've got the 3rd Mechanized Division here, some Egyptian forces, along with the 4th Armored M60A1 Division here. Then we have the 1st Armored Cav, so right there, from the US. The 9th T-62, it's a Syrian Armored Division right here. And then the 7th Challenger Armor from the 1st Armored Division, Armored Brigade, I should say, from the 1st Armored Division, from the Brits, right there. So, come my turn on turn 2, I have a lot to move, and I'm looking forward to moving it. Coming into the beginnings of turn 2, huge stuff going on. So, the Iraqis failed to pass media criticism of Hawks, and in response, finally, I had a card success, so Bush vilified Saddam. That does up the Joker by 1, but the special effect for that from this expansion book says that the coalition player rolls 1 die and adds that number of coalition club suits. So look at that. Rolled a 6, had a witness, and that puts me way ahead on the club side. I don't want to lose my forces. I don't want to experience reductions, but I can take some more aggressive risks because I have that headroom now. I've got some time to kill on that particular track, and that means that because I didn't move last turn, I think I'm just going to turn up the heat and try to get a little more aggressive on this go round. But I have to wait because it's the Iraqi player's turn first. And I don't know what to expect. I think it's just going to be more stalemate on the ground, but I'm very curious if something's going to happen in the air. Okay, the Iraqi player's turn is over. And neither of us know if this is really a good decision or not, but they elected to pass on all air and ground activity. They did a little bit of moving, so they shuffled some of their Republican Guard, again, southeastward, a little bit southward here, brought a little more infantry back up towards Baghdad and Fallujah. And then down here, consolidated. I think they heard that I was laughing about that exposed infantry. So they've kind of consolidated and pulled up around the south side of Kuwait City, and then also shored up some of the shoreline over there, just in case I make a marine landing, I'm sure. And then they made a smart move, I think. They refitted their MiG-29. So their MiG-29 is back in action at Al Hay Air Base. So it is my turn, and I'm going to kick this off. But I guess first we've got to see cards. Hopefully there's not another card that paralyzes my troops. Okay, so we already have a pretty dynamic turn unfolding. Both sides successfully rolled on their cards. So Saddam threatened to use weapons of mass destruction, and the French National Assembly has voted for war. So this is kind of brutal. The WMD card from the Iraqi side halves the number of spaces or the number of movement points that my coalition forces get. So it doesn't necessarily paralyze them or stick them in place, but it does divide into all of my movement, rounded down for the duration of turn 2, which sucks. The French National Assembly, however, voted for war, and that does help somewhat. So if I go back to that one, that says the French units that I have, the Daguet and 6th AMX 30, which I don't have yet, but I think they're entering at the start of my movement phase in just a second. Their movement is doubled this turn. So they're going to move normally. The rest of my force will not. So I might set them up maybe out here on the edge. And in the time that it takes them, they'll be able to jump up here pretty quickly. Down here, these units are going to be creeping along at half speed. I don't think they're going to be able to reach their targets. But in response to that, I carried out a pretty massive air campaign, seeing the conservatism displayed by the Iraqi player. So I'm kind of all over the map here, and mixed degrees of success. Don't love it, don't hate it. So first things first, down here, I went ham on the roads. So the roads leading from Kuwait to Basra and Safwan, etc., I just went to town on them. I've got Warthogs galore strafing up the roads here. I've got A6s and Tornadoes along the coast. And there was some good action. So this Iraqi Mirage failed to scratch this A10. So these A10s have destroyed this chain of roads leading away from the front line there. Then over here, I did get both roads, but the MiG-29 escaped unscathed after nicking my A6 and reducing it one step, which gave the Iraqi player 1 club point. The Iraqi player got another club point when over here I had an F-16 get reduced by anti-air fire, and another point when my F-111 took anti-air fire. These other missions, so I hit an oil field here with an AC-130, an oil field here with my strategic bombers, my B-52s, an oil field with my B-52, and a road with my F-16s. And then up here, I failed to destroy this wellhead, it looks like. My F-111 was struck by AA fire, and I'm guessing they had to go defensive, and no dice. So I have moved my diamond tracker up 3, but they're gaining on me in clubs now. So it was an okay air phase, I think. Again, they're really doing a good job protecting their fighters where they need to. They've got a few options left on the field, and because I failed to reduce either of their interceptors this turn, they're going to next turn, assuming they don't take any crazy risks and lose anything, they're going to get to refit yet another plane, which I'm guessing it's going to be this MiG-25 or, yep, probably the MiG-25. That's more important than the 21s. So we will see. Forgot to mention last turn also, they pulled back some of their troops. I think they're seeding from the front. It's been too long, and because I couldn't move my airborne forces and take advantage of their air mobile status soon enough with that movement lock, I'm kind of SOL there. So won't get any cool kills with them, maybe potentially on this tank unit, we'll see. But I did last turn refit the 101st Airborne, so they're back up to fighting strength. So that's the air phase. I'm about to receive some reinforcements and then move everything in. So let's go ahead and rebase our planes and see how the next bit unfolds. So we're at the end of turn 2. All coalition forces have shifted forward what meager amount they could, and I did refit my F-111s that were reduced from that bombing run. So really not a lot happening. We're just creeping forward. The land war is about to commence. But very importantly, along with some of the ground reinforcements, I have a lot of air units now. I just got a bunch of F-16s, some Hornets, another F-15. I got an Apache. I got some A6s. I've got a lot more naval air units as well. So my air campaign is about to pick up a lot. This is my first time playing the game. I don't know what the win statistics are, but I'm very curious because if I just don't advance, the Iraqi player is, I feel, very unlikely to charge me and attack me because of the overwhelming troops I have down there. Although they could maybe try, I'm not really sure, but it feels like with their waning number of planes, I can just strat bomb everything and just farm points. And where do they get points from? I'm not sure. This is my first time playing the game, so we'll see. That said, end of turn 2, moving into turn 3, roughly about to be a third of the way through the game. I guess it's 10 turns, so definitely less than that. But the Iraqi player is a little in the lead. They have 3 victory tracks that are actually, they've got, no, never mind. It's a tie. It's a tie. What am I saying? So they're leading in spades and hearts. I'm leading in clubs and diamonds, and we are tied on jokers. So we will see. We will see. I think I got pretty lucky with some of those dice rolls earlier. This expansion, that roll 1 die and add that number of coalition club suits. Again, this is my first time playing. Maybe should that say, add that number of coalition club suits divided by 2? I mean, getting 6 is crazy. I mean, that put me so far ahead, but we'll see. All right, turn 3 means new cards and a new round of Iraqi moves, and I am now nearing the border and crossing it in some cases. So I get the sense that there will be some preemptive strikes from the Iraqis on this turn. We will see. Okay, turn 3 is well underway. There are peace vigil protests against Bush, and that is thanks to the Iraqi players, so they gained 1 point in heart, and that also gave them a point of their choosing, so they chose the Joker, so they're now ahead on that. Then they ran in a little air campaign, or a pair of strikes, one against this French 6th Division of AMXs, and one against this 3rd Abrams armored group, and both failed to hit. So over on the left side, They did drive off one of my F-16s and damage another one, but I damaged both of their fighters. And then over here on this side, they damaged both of my F-15s, but I damaged both of them. The MiG-25, they risked that. That was already reduced, and I missed it. So that was a bummer. I could have had a chance to kill one, but I didn't. The Mirage bomber here was taken out by American anti-aircraft fire. So a couple reduced planes, but in particular for me, that's 3 reduced planes, which means that club track, they just caught up a lot. So I'm not feeling as invincible now. This is getting brutal. We both have to lick our wounds after that. We've had quite a few air assets get reduced, but I am now wincing because I'm about to face ground fire. We'll see how that goes. Okay, the Iraqi turn is finished, and let's see how it unfolded. You'll see that they have all pulled back one, so in the advance after combat phase, all of their units pulled back 1 hex. But we did have some tense fighting here. So this unit here of the third armored has taken a good hit. In return, they punched back and knocked out by 1 pip, I guess, or if you will, like 1 step, reduced that Republican Guard unit. Then there was a little more fighting along the front over here, kind of a stalemate between a lot of units, just exchanging fire with no real results. And then I had some terrific results on the far right flank. So they had a number of units attack me along this sort of armored front here, all these Abrams tanks. They had a Republican Guard unit, an armored T-62 unit, and then some infantry units all attack, miss, and then get struck right back by all the defending shots from the Abrams. So they have passed it over to me. Still though, they did reduce one of my units, so that did bump them ever closer to me. And at the end of their turn, they refitted that damn MiG-29, so that thing's gonna be a thorn in my side a little longer. Okay, it's my turn, and I'm gonna see what I can do about this. Okay, debating putting Danger Zone on as the soundtrack for this part. So this is awesome. I've had my air phase. Huge success. So let's do a quick after action on this. Saddam successfully vowed to destroy Kuwait, which means, if I'm not mistaken, that he simply just got another point. Yeah, he just traded down, she traded down one of her clubs and boosted up, I think it was one of her others, her spade. But I got a clutch card, US Jams Iraqi Sams. Small side note, I again, new, but this is maybe a small criticism from me of the game. The flip side of this card is F117's hit Baghdad. If you succeed on this, so in the base game, fine, like clubs, you need it. So the die roll 1 to 4 means you're a higher likelihood of success there than here. And you definitely need these clubs in the base game as the coalition because the Iraqis have an advantage with the bonus they get. But with this, with the expansion pack or the expansion booklet, and it adds these custom effects to these cards. F117s reduces, or you get to ignore anti-aircraft fires and mishap die rolls when bombing Baghdad. That's that side, which is pretty neat. You flip it. The flip side of the same card, if you do that jamming, which is a higher likelihood of success, ignore all anti-aircraft and mishap die rolls anywhere on the map this turn. So it's just better. It's just objectively better than the F117s hit Baghdad. And it's a higher likelihood. I mean, why would you not play that? I mean, I guess clubs here, hearts there, but again, you really need those clubs. I don't know. I would almost change that effect to something else. Make it more specific. Maybe reduce anti-air rolls against Iraqi units specifically. I'm not sure. Anyway, I played that and I succeeded. So I went on the mother of all air campaigns. What did I do? Well, I exhausted pretty much everybody that wasn't already reduced. And here's how it went. A-10 gun run against this Republican Guard unit, reduced it. Hornet and an Apache gun runs on this Republican Guard unit and actually eliminated it. So I will get rid of that token. 810 here managed to dodge this Mirage and reduce one of these units. And that was that for that side. So moving on up over here, we've got some Marine airman action. So near Basra, up here actually we had some action around Basra. Down here, let's see, we struck an economic site, we struck an oil well. And both of these MiG-21s had at me. One of them knocked one of my A6s here. I killed the other, and this MiG-21 is just gonna flee home on his own. Up here, successful bombing against another oil well, Marines uncontested. Here, an A-10, I took a risk. I sent him in alone after a Scud site, and he did get tagged by a MiG-29 and could not, of course, return fire very well on that MiG-29. So that MiG-29 is healthy, continuing to dog me, and hitting me where I'm vulnerable, was hoping that she wouldn't see that one site, but oh well. Whacked another Scud site right there with an AC-130 escorted by an F-16. Moving on over here, we've got Q. What is Q? The Ur Missile Facility. Took that out with a B-52, escorted. Moving a little further, what's next? All of this stuff was already hit, so I guess it's up here, yeah. So we snagged a gas well, I guess it is. I guess it's a gas well. Over here with my newly regenerated F-111, and then hit a pair of sites over here. So actually, no, I didn't. So this was a tragic roll. This B-52 and F-16 both had a go at K, the Haidar Bioweapons Research Facility. Missed on both, but I did hit an oil and gas site up here. Their MiG-25 had no effect on me. I think missed in my response too. I think he had to abort. So big success. Very glad that I had this Iraq Jam or US Jams Iraq SAMs card, because I rolled a lot of sixes. So that would have been a lot more wounded planes. So this is where the points stand at the end of my air phase. They made some big gains here by some of their reductions, but I still stayed ahead with a lot of those Scud sites and missile sites that I hit. And I gained a lot in the diamond suit. So I don't think Iraq is going to catch me on the diamonds anytime soon. So that puts me squarely in the lead there. I'm hanging on with clubs, but they're kind of killing me on these others. So I'm going to have to come up with a plan for those. Hearts, I got to capture cities. So I've got to rescue Kuwait. That's the big one. I don't think I'm going to reach Baghdad. We'll see. Jokers, they're going to have to come from cards. And then nuclear sites, you know what? I should actually have some of those. I mismarked those. Nuclear sites are spades. So I'm glad I'm catching that now. So both of those clubs go away. I actually come down 1, 2, and I'm gonna put some spade markers on these in just a second when I've got both hands free, and I'm gonna move myself up 2. So I need to hit a few more chemical weapons sites and bio research facilities. That will be a mission for my next air campaign. Giving my opponent a sneak peek of my plans. Okay, now for the ground campaign. Let me rebase my fighters and we'll see what we can do. All right, had to sit down to explain this one. Lots happened, of course, so let's go step by step. French units up here were able to reduce with one shot and then kill this infantry unit here. So the 2nd Infantry Division has been destroyed. Then the 24th Mechanized were able to reduce this T-62 group but not kill it. The 3rd Mechanized failed as well. This looks like a mechanized recon or mechanized cav or something like that. And then this 1st Armored Cav group also failed to land the final shot. Here, this already reduced, I think, from the air fire, was it? T-62 division was knocked by this Challenger tank. Here, this M1 Abrams group, the 1st Armor, was able to knock this T-72 group. A little further to the right, more Abrams, more success. I think reduced but didn't kill this infantry unit here. Down here, Khalid, this Saudi unit, was able to finish off this T-62 here. Meanwhile, what does that say? Othman and these challengers, British challengers, were able to reduce and destroy this infantry unit here. So that's a lot of Iraqi forces off the map. Let's go ahead and remove these destroyed units. Okay, the front is way more in my favor. In a second, I'm going to shift forward and capture this point, which will give me, I believe, a diamond suit when I do my advance after combat. Over here on the right, things weren't as great. So this unit of Marine M60A1s knocked this T-62 and reduced it. But both of these Saudi groups, the 10th Mechanized and the Tariq M113 Mechanized, struck at this T-62 group here, the 3rd Armored, and failed miserably. Both were reduced. So that is that actually brought them within striking distance, and they actually surpassed me because I got a little funky up here. I decided to do a marine landing. It's going to be hard for anybody to get up to me and reinforce from these cities up here, Basra, Safwan, etc. So I landed on this hex here, struck with the 4th Marine Expeditionary, and was able to reduce the 14th Infantry Division from the Iraqis. But I had less luck here. The 7th moved north 1 hex, struck at the 35th Infantry Division and reduced them, but returned fire reduced the 7th Marines. So it's turning into a bit of a quagmire here by this marsh. I think, I'm going to have to figure out how to finish these guys, but I might have to do it with air. I don't want to risk the 7th Marines, and actually they're probably going to counterattack. So that might be a unit that I restore. I get the feeling these Saudi units are going to get hit over here on a counterattack. And that just is what it is, unfortunately. I'm probably going to have to restore these Marines, because I think when they're restored, they'll be all right. And maybe then my opponent will be a little afraid to attack me with those infantry. I don't know. But it got a little bloody here on the coast of the Persian Gulf. Up here, no real drama. 82nd Airborne are closing on Ash Shabaka, and then As Salman, the 101st, landed, encountered no insurgents, and struck out at the 52nd Armored Division. Those T-62s withstanded the hit. Didn't manage to land a hit back on the 101st, so that will develop a little more next turn. So, all said and done, things didn't move too much up here. The battle line certainly shifted, so things are about to move some, and I'm going to get a diamond when I do this advance after combat. And I think, yes, I did move on to Burning Oil Well, and I did factor for that, so I did move my spade up by 1. So some progress, but I'm wincing at what's about to happen. I'm starting to think that fighting for clubs, unless you get really lucky, I mean, I still have a fighting chance at that, but I'm starting to feel like that's just a waste of time for the coalition player. I mean, if you want to go for like total victory, it's a fun challenge, but the way the combat stuff works in this game, the mechanics, it's bloody. It's surprisingly bloody, I think, and maybe it's supposed to be that way. It's supposed to reflect, what this fight was like. I don't know. I mean, I remember reading articles and seeing videos of Bradley's schwacking, entire armored columns from the Iraqis and the Iraqi forces sort of mass surrendering. But perhaps reducing in the way that we're talking about it here isn't necessarily the same kind of wipeout that we're talking about with the Iraqis. It's abstracted, of course. So reduced may be, what is the acceptable casualty level? When I knock one of these infantry groups out, I'm probably wiping a lot of them and driving the rest to surrender. When I knock out one of my units, maybe it just means they take an unacceptable level of casualties and are rotated to the back line. And so that's my headcanon for that. But man, I mean, the Iraqis run away with the club suit. So I'm gonna have to start playing to the others because they now have the lead, even though I did really, really well that turn. We'll see how the next unfolds. Okay, Iraq's turn start plus air phase. So first off, they played this card, Politicians Debate the War. And actually, sorry, I just forgot to move one of mine. Politicians Debate the War. They rolled successfully, so they got a joker, but they didn't roll a 1. If they had rolled a 1, then all of my land units movement would have been halved. So again, they're trying to catch me and bog me down and slow me down a lot down there. I played a pretty cool card, SAS Hunt Scud Launchers. So I succeeded on that. Gave me a club, which I'd forgotten to do earlier, so I just did that. Plus, it means one launcher area of the coalition player's choice is destroyed. So I'm going to say in my headcanon, these SAS guys got past this 29th Infantry Division here, just south of Zubair and Abu al-Kasib, and knocked the Scud site just past that bridge there. So that got me another club. So then they ran a little air campaign. They, get down here, they ran a pair of already reduced fighters at me to try to kill this tank here. I think, well, sorry, they're laughing at me quietly. I think, not to be rude, but probably running an air campaign here was a mistake. I know we're fighting tooth and nail for clubs, but I don't see how they need to worry about clubs. So they lost both of these fighters. Those are out of the game now. Excuse me. And in return, they simply wounded my F-16 and failed to destroy this armored unit here. Over on this side, similar kind of situation. They didn't lose these, though. The Mirage and the MiG-29 survived. This pesky 29 lives to see another day. But they failed to strike both of these very wounded Saudi units, which I thought they would surely kill. But I don't know, maybe not with a 2 for ground engagement. Luckily, with the 6 and a 4, they rolled a 6 for the 29 and a 4 for the Mirage, which means they didn't kill or reduce either of my units. They simply drove them off. So not a very successful air push from them, but there's probably going to be a bit of a desperate counterattack here. Again, the Iraqi forces don't necessarily care in this game if they lose points or lose their units, because they don't lose points for it. So there are going to be some last stands down here, I assume, and I'm probably going to take some casualties, and they're probably going to get some clubs. But before I move to the next turn, I wanted to point out another little kind of small issue with this expansion booklet. Frankly, just as an aside, I'm really enjoying this game so far. Both of us are. This is very fun. The momentum is really great. The interplay with these points is fantastic. I thought the coalition would be crushing them, but look at that. I mean, I'm just squarely losing across the board right now. I'm not getting enough of the targets that I need. But this expansion book, while I adore the idea, this is really, really cool. Gives it a lot more flavor and to some degree replayability. There are just some lines in here that don't make sense. So we already covered the one where it was the anti-air jamming and stuff. Here's one. So Patriots deployed on a 1 to 4, so it's pretty likely to happen. I get, this cancels Mother of All Battles threat event if played. This is a turn 4 card. Mother of All Battles is a turn 3 card. And if that had been played last turn, the coalition player must reduce a coalition land unit in Khafji, if any. So not only is that kind of a weird card, I mean, Khafji is where on the map, right? I don't, it's somewhere around here, but that's kind of very specific that I would have by turn 3 have a unit there. Well, maybe not, I don't know, actually. Khafji is down here, sorry. So maybe that's not that bad. They would kill whatever is advancing on the coast. So anyway, regardless, that's a turn 3 card. That would have been played and resolved by now, and now we're in turn 4. And unless I'm getting something wrong with how these cards are being played, why would a turn 4 card, why would its use here be to cancel a card that would have already played and resolved? It's not like it had a persistent effect or something like that. So that, I don't know, that's like a typo or just a QA error. I mean, that probably should have occurred 1 turn prior. Anyway, Patriots deployed. Doesn't seem super useful, but again, for a spade, which, whatever. The Tomahawks one is interesting. This would have brought in some game components from the, whoops, I'm actually just gonna leave that out there for now. I'll put it back. Some game components from the sequel, 30 Days to Baghdad, which I'm really looking forward to playing if it's any indication, if this game is any indication. You get to pull in some of those assets. So they've got Tomahawk missiles. I know, well,
we'll get to it because I don't want to spoil it for my opponent. But this one also does something pretty neat with game components from the previous or from the sequel. So, okay, that's that. I'm wincing now because here comes the counterattack. I'm hoping I can stave off any casualties. Thankfully, they are attacking me, but I'm not really, there's no defensive terrain. This is just flat desert, so defenders are not going to be getting any benefits. The only defender that might is going to be the 101st here. So we'll see. Okay, it was a brutal turn. Just to give you a preview, look at how far ahead that club's marker is. So lots of casualties across the line. On the left side, T-72s hit this AMX group pretty hard. AMX returned fire and killed them, but not before getting reduced. This 51st mechanized armored kind of mixed group, T-62s, were killed attempting to shoot at some of my challengers. This infantry unit attacked this Abrams here, kind of a Hail Mary play. He got reduced. Same story here. And then a similar story here, although these guys were already reduced. So when they attacked these AMX 30s right here, they returned fire, killed them. Over here is where it started to get a little uglier. So 31st Infantry Division managed to score some good hits on this Saudi, wow, I'm making a mess of things, this Saudi tank group here. So unfortunately, they reduced my Saudi tank group, but not before the Saudis reduced them. This infantry group here attacked and got reduced by this challenger group. Down here, they managed to hit this Egyptian T-62 division and reduce it before they were killed. And over here, no reductions to me, but their infantry division was reduced. Over here, very unfortunate, this unit with strength 1 attacked the 4th Marines and managed to catch them off guard. The Marines got hit pretty hard, reduced, no good effect back. And that was that. So I took quite a few reductions. I think now on the offensive, I should be able to wipe most of the rest of this and clean this up. I'm a little worried about this, so she made some good plays here. She shifted some special infantry here. It's the strongest Iraq infantry unit that they've got. And then a pretty formidable T-62, non-Republican Guard, but formidable tank unit here. So Kuwait City is going to be tough to take. I'm going to have to send in my absolute best. And now I have to worry about whether or not my Marine landing was a bit premature. They've stacked up some Republican Guards here with the 38th Infantry in Qasr, and I have quite a bit to worry about there. That's going to be another tough fight. And the Marines, I don't think the Marines are cut for that on their own right here. They're going to need some support. So I've just kind of been dancing around. Like I use these Marines with my Advance 1 to capture that burning oil field there. I'm probably going to continue to do so. But I'm going to have to figure out how to get some revenge for that because that was highly effective. Oh, and last thing. Almost forgot to mention, over here, the 101st actually got hit pretty hard by that T-62, that 52nd Division right there. They held out successfully against the 25th Infantry, but they did get reduced. They took some T-62s with them, but that's looking pretty rough. 82nd might actually have to come in here and divert from Ash-Shabaka. Okay, new strategy from me. As you can see, I just stopped caring about clubs for the time being. It's my first time playing, and I'm sure when I'm better at this, I will play the club game way more delicately. But I'm just going to accept the fact that I'm going to take some casualties doing this. So I did an all-out air raid. I've exhausted almost every single one of my units, and I have hit many, many, many targets. So let's just go from Baghdad and Fallujah all the way back down to Kuwait. In Baghdad, I hit, Bravo, the Al Faris General Establishment. I hit Kilo, the Hadar Bioweapons Research Facility. I hit Mike, the Technical Research Center. I had an A-10 with a GBU-31 strike Hotel, the Fallujah Chemical Training Ground. So that's 4 different sites. So that's 4. I'm catching up here. And in the process, there was no air interdiction from the Iraqi player. I did risk some planes, so I had an F-15 that was wounded going up there already. I did take a casualty from anti-air fire, so this A-10 got knocked out after expending his GBU-31, which is a neat token from the sequel. But mission success up there pretty largely. Down here, didn't really love this outcome. I had an A6 over here that was reduced, going after the infantry in this town here. And this MiG-29 wounded it, and this wounded F-15 failed to hit it back. So the wounded A6 made a strike, wounded the infantry, but was knocked out by enemy anti-air fire. I can't do a search and rescue run on this guy. Search and rescue requires a D6 roll, and if the roll is less than their air combat modifier, you rescue them and can undo the clubs marker up there. So you've still lost the plane, but you've at least rescued the person. And in this case, it's a 0, so there's no saving that guy. Over here, had mixed luck, so an A-10 and an Apache both struck this 52nd Armored Group, knocked it out, so that's goodbye to those Iraqi tanks. This group, unfortunately, so there was an F-18, got damaged by anti-air fire and failed to strike the target. The F-111 did hit the target, so reduced that infantry group, but the 101st is still under threat there. Shifting further down, we've got a lot more strikes. So we had some along the coast here, a lot localized around Kuwait City. So first things first, this Hornet and this A6, wounded A6, both struck and killed this T-62, this armored division here, the 3rd. So that's out of the game. Here, let's say here, on the western side of Kuwait, an A-10 and an F-16 struck. The F-16 got wounded. However, this powerful infantry unit was struck twice and knocked out. So that is a load off my back. This didn't go so well on the right. Not at all. The attack on this tank did reduce it. However, this A6 was damaged in the attempt, and these MiG-21s, actually the MiG-21 and the Mirage, get away scot-free after killing my F-18. I needed this A6 to make the strike. And actually, sorry, I mentioned that was a mistake. He was not damaged. He was already reduced. The F-18 was full strength. They both scored hits, a 1 and a 2, which was wild. And I needed to allocate that damage somewhere. So rather than risk, it would have been wound the F-18 and kill this guy, or take 2 and let this guy go down. So this Hornet sacrificed himself so that this A6 was able to strike and reduce this threatening tank division. So the F-18 goes up to the compass, and that is it for that air run. I'm going to attempt search and rescue. So I will roll 2 dice. I need a 1 to rescue that A-10, and I need a 4 or lower to rescue that F-18. So the A-10 doesn't work. He's out. He's gone. And now for the Hornet. A 6. Brutal. Okay. So Hornet went down to the ocean, and the A-10 was lost in the aftermath, the blast of that chemical facility. So I'm not coming back from that on the clubs game. No sense in worrying about clubs anymore. I likely won't play any more clubs cards unless they have crazy good effects. And I'm not likely to start striking missile sites. It would be a little gamey if I just ignored casualties entirely because of where the club's marker is and just started throwing all my units away. So I'm still going to try. This air run already was a bit gung-ho, probably not the most realistic. But I was kind of getting frustrated with the lack of progress on some stuff, and I really wanted to let loose on the air front and goad the last of her flyers into fights that they would lose. And unfortunately, she really didn't lose that much. So mostly it was good success on all of these chemical and nuclear facilities around Baghdad and Fallujah. Big success up in that corner of the map. Kuwait City was softened, so I'm about to move on it, and hopefully that makes things slightly easier for me. And then from there, I've got the busy job of pushing forward. I think in my favor is the fact that defenses here are quite light. There's a lot going on up here by Baghdad and Fallujah, and I don't know if I need to push up that high yet. I really just need to play politics and heart. That's what's killing me, and that's ironically, not ironically, that's funny enough. Very much how a lot of this went in history. That's, I think, one of the strong points of the game is how this manages to simulate a war that was fairly asymmetric in the Delta force. It's certainly not like an insurgency, like an anti-insurgency fight, but it was nonetheless an overwhelming force against a far, far weaker force. But I'm feeling like I'm up against the ropes here. I'm feeling like I'm short on options. So again, like I'm leading on diamonds, but I'm losing everywhere else. I think I can take spades. I think with the right plays I can get politics, but heart, I've got to figure out how to get heart. I need to rescue Kuwait, so that's 2. And then what do? I mean, I have to move on Baghdad. Baghdad has to happen. Or cards have to assist with that. So we will see. There's no means for the Iraqi player other than cards to get heart. So, and they can't, I mean, I guess if they recaptured Kuwait or something, or if I took Baghdad and they recaptured it, we'll see. I hope it doesn't take me all the way until Baghdad, but that's my turn. I'm going to restore 1 unit. I could restore an air unit. Well, actually, sorry, no, that's not my turn. I'm going to rebase my fighters, and she's going to rebase hers, and then I will advance to ground, but I think I already have planned who I need to refit. So, ground combat first. Ground fights have concluded. So, French and American units have pushed north. The French have taken Al Busaya Northeast Air Base, as well as the, Romeo? The Camisea Chemical Munitions Site, which did give me 1 club. I have surrounded the 47th Infantry Division here, and thus they surrender and are off the board. Here, this AMX group, the 10th, have killed this unit here. Actually, no, I think this was the 3rd Armored Abrams. Here, this Abrams group beneath, so the 1st have knocked out these. And this group of Egyptians here together have taken out this infantry unit. Over here, this Marine M60A1 group tried against Kuwait City but failed. The city defenses gave a +2 penalty, so that was tough luck for the Marines there. So no dice. However, they did contribute to surrounding this unit, so this unit is also removed. They will surrender. The Marine expeditionary units up here continue their stroke of terrible luck. I had restored them, and now they are reduced one more time again, as they shot at this hardy little 35th Infantry group here on an open road and could not manage it. So they are not wounded, and in the return fire, they rolled their lucky 1 and nailed those guys in return. So that's that. Stalemates over here. 82nd and 101st are still thick in the fighting against the infantry. The 101st are garrisoned into town, so they've got an easier job when these guys are eventually going to shoot back. A little worried about the 82nd. They've got no bonus. Actually, I think this is unwinnable here. They roll. They need lower than a 1, but these guys are in a town, so they get a +1 penalty to the attacker. Here, though, they can still hit me on a 1, so the 82nd is under some degree of threat. But with my shift now, I'm going to go ahead and move these guys on in. So the Egyptians are in the west side of Kuwait City, which is going to give me 1 point on the heart tracker. The rest is going to have to wait, and I'm going to go ahead and cut the camera while I move the rest forward. But I'm going to advance 1 on all of these. I think for example, for starters here, I'm going to seize that airbase, and then continue my northeast push through Kuwait. All right, so Iraq's turn 5 came and went very quickly. So Saddam launched Scuds at Israel. Israel, if I had rolled a 1 on that, the Syrian tank group I have would have had to exit the field, but they didn't. However, they still triggered it, so they got 1 spade. Then I tried to run some psyops for a political point, and I think the psyops also would have made the Iraqi player skip her advanced after combat turn this round, but I failed. That didn't work, unfortunately, so that goes away. Then she skipped her air phase, I think learning from the last time that being a little defensive with the air at this point is probably a little better. So retained her air and instead continued her ground attacks. So in the west, at Shabaka, Shabaka. I wish I knew how to pronounce that correctly. 30th Infantry Division attacked the 82nd Airborne and actually reduced them. 82nd returned fire and killed those infantry. But now both of my airborne units are reduced. 25th Infantry failed to nick the 101st. 101st failed in their attempt to shoot back. Over here, I got very lucky. I think I overextended this French AMX group. The 6th is under threat right now. I decided not to retreat after the first shot because she shot with her 4 first. It missed. I missed on the return. And the 2, it was a gamble. I don't know why I took it, but I decided to stay in place. And the 2 thankfully missed. However, I missed the return fire. So total stalemate here in the marsh around the Djeliba Outhist airbase. Nothing really around here. Okay. So 7th Marines were engaged. She actually brought a lot down. So this is maybe what caught me off guard. I'd been getting a little complacent with the state of the map because I think for 2 turns she hadn't moved anything. Now suddenly there were all these Republican Guard tanks flooding down. I don't know about this one. This might get a little isolated, but I think she just wants to pressure the 82nd. But over here, good pressure down just south of the Euphrates River. Over here, down near, I guess, Basra now, she's got all these tanks moving toward Basra and has actually exited Qasr and Safwan and is pushing now. So she had a lot of units gathering on the 7th Marines. And in the first fight, she engaged with these Republican Guard tanks, these T-72s, did a number on the Marines. The Marines decided, let's go ahead and retreat. Unfortunately for them, though, they only rolled a 1, so they retreated 1 space. Elsewhere, these guys attacked the 4th Marines. The 4th Marines fired back, total stalemate. And down here, these guys, I don't know why they attacked. They probably were better defending, but she decided to attack from Kuwait City with this 6th Armored Division against the Marines down here, probably just with the hopes of nicking them and discouraging me. It didn't work, and the Marines returned fired and got rid of that. So no more T-62 in Kuwait City. That's mine for the taking next turn. So I'm going to go ahead and let her do her final movements. She's already actually kind of flipped this token a little out of sequence, but this damn MiG-29 is back. I'm beginning to wonder if I should have bombed a lot of these airfields. What does she have? She's got 3 planes left, the Mirage, the MiG-21, and then the 29 over there. And a lot of airfields, almost too many. I am going to have to figure out how to maybe creatively goad that 29 somewhere and then deal with it. Because I think my stuff is just needed for more priority targets. I don't know. It's a lot of air bases. I'm going to start capturing some on the ground over here. But anyway. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention from the last turn, from the coalition turn, end of turn 4, I have been capturing all of these burning oil wells. So I went ahead and adjusted my spade accordingly, which did put me out a little further ahead. So I'm leading in spades and diamonds. But that's not enough. She's got 3 of the 5 still. So need to make sure I maintain my lead in the spades, and then something's got to give with jokers and hearts. All right. So she'll make her advance after turn, and then I'll go ahead and play my card and my heir, and we'll check back in then. Okay, start of coalition turn 5. We both played 2 cards that both popped off successfully. She played global gas supply barely enough. So due to fuel shortages, I have to skip my advance after combat phase. Then I played DoD pledges no draft, which I'm very happy about because that means I can actually refit, aka kind of restore or flip over 2 of my units at the end of this turn instead of just 1. So that did move us up. She got 1 diamond and I pushed my heart points 1 further. So that's looking good. And then I ran a bombing campaign. So in Baghdad, Delta, the Muthana Chemical Weapons HQ, knocked that out. Moving on down, ran an AC-130 and a Hornet against that Republican Guard T-72 group right there. Only reduced it, didn't kill it, but that's still good. Over here, some more reinforcements were coming down along the Tigris River. I struck specifically at one of their T-72 Republican Guard units with a Tornado and a Hornet. The Hornet got nicked, unfortunately, by AA fire, but the Hornet did its job. Actually, the Tornado did its job. The Hornet missed. A little further down here, so south of the Euphrates, two somewhat successful strikes, one very successful. So here, B-52 and an F-16 engaged a division of Republican Guard T-72s and actually fully destroyed this one. So that's out. And then we had a bit of an air engagement. So that 29 showed up with the Mirage at his side and actually only managed to reduce one of my A-10s. A-10s ran train on this T-72, Republican Guard, and reduced it, but didn't kill it. Down here, MiG-21 came to the defense of this Republican Guard T-72 unit, but failed, unfortunately, to protect it. It was reduced by the F-111. F-18 didn't have any luck shooting down either the MiG-21 or bombing that tank division. But some good progress. I had one unit wounded, that was that A-10, but the rest, across the board, pretty successful. Got another Spade out of the nuclear facility there, a heart from this card, and I think it's now time for some cleanup in Kuwait, and I've got to deal with this cluster here. We'll figure that out. Combat on Coalition Game Turn 5 was brutal. Probably the bloodiest for me that it's been this whole game. Her dice rolls were just absolutely bonkers. So let's see. First things first, I had some luck over here. So I brought the 82nd Airborne around to support the 101st, and together they knocked out the 25th Infantry Division. So that's gone. Happy day. Over here is where it started to go a little south. The American 24th Mechanized Infantry and the Daguet French AMX-30 group attacked this airbase here, knocked out this Republican Guard tank unit following the strike from the, I think it was the Warthogs earlier, and reduced this infantry unit, but both were reduced. Both lost one step. So this whole western group here, we've got a lot of casualties. I've got the 3rd Armored, I've got the 6th Armored from the French, both French units and several American units have seen some pretty significant fighting. That trend, unfortunately, continues down here. So yes, with the help of some of the Egyptian forces, we wiped these guys. With the help of the Brits, we wiped this Republican Guard tank unit, which is critical. And Abrams versus these weak infantry units, of course, the infantry are going to start to go down. So these guys died and the other ones were reduced. But look at this. The Challengers and 2 Abrams units were all reduced by this stack of infantry here. And in this case, by the return fire from those Guards tanks. So very costly fighting. Really costly fighting, and it's having me pause and really consider things, because now she's of course going to attack, and in order for these things to happen, that's a 1 in 6 chance in a lot of these cases, and a 1/3 chance with some of these 2s. So really brutal, honestly. She's been rolling a lot of 1s, which you know, that's just chance. That's just the dice. So it's working in her favor. I'm going to have to, when I think a little deeper about this after action report, think about my headcanon and why this is happening. What is triggering this? So I don't get my advance after combat with this global gas shortage. What you see, or what I see here, is what I've got. I'm sort of pinned in this position. She's got Republican Guard armored groups from the north coming down the Tigris. She's got more stuff coming down the Euphrates. She's got an air unit at full health at 29, and I think she's got actually several air units that she could strike with. So she is definitely able to finish off some of these units that I've got that are at reduced strength right now. I'm going to probably have to be quite defensive with my planes and be ready for interception. So yeah, rough. Although I didn't give myself a heart point, but I should. So the Syrian and Egyptian troops now have seized Kuwait City, and the Saudis are building up on the outside. A little different from history, but whatever. So I do get if I reach on up here, 1 point in heart because I've captured another city. So now the only way to really pass her up there is to get cards or to march on Baghdad. And this has been quite bloody. And I will say, I think in real life, in the historical scenario, a lot more Iraqi troops were built up around the border, and so they were sort of crushed in one fell swoop. I'm impressed with how she set up her troops here. It's not slowing me on the upfront, so I still have a lot of room to stretch my legs. But it's clear that she's got a reasonable amount of depth between her and Baghdad, and it's going to take some work to get there. And frankly, with how these dice are rolling, and how my air mobile units are getting crushed by some infantry over here, and infantry are making pretty legendary stands across this, this is a pretty ahistoric, if that's the right term, outcome for a lot of these infantry defensive fights from the Iraqis. So not a lot of surrenders. I think I've only had 3 where I could surround them, and things are only going to get bloodier from here. Her club's marker is definitely pinned to the end point there, and I don't think I'm catching up on that front. I watched a couple. I think I watched one person play this on YouTube, and I think I saw the same thing. The clubs just for the Iraqi player jumped out super far to the right. I'd be curious in playtesting how often that happened too. Is it a sign of an overzealous coalition commander? Is it a sign of underutilized air action? Maybe, I've been so focused on harvesting victory points from all of these other like strike points and stuff up around Baghdad and all these hard points and military assets. And by doing that, I haven't been doing nearly enough strikes on the ground units. Maybe I should have spent a lot more time running planes against ground units so that the ground forces are already a little weakened when I'm coming in. I don't know. But I also feel like, if I look at some of my losses, these are the Iraqi losses so far, and these are my losses. These, you can ignore these. These are special scenario tokens, so those come in when certain things happen. But I've lost outright 3 planes. I have, 4 F-16s reduced, 2 F-15s, a Hornet, an A-10, and over here, my remaining A-6s and my other Hornet are all reduced. So already there, that's a lot of clubs. And that's to say nothing for all the ground forces that I've lost. So what I do like about this is how much it's making me rethink my own strategy. It's very clear that, there are things I could have done better to prevent that club from jumping up so far on their side. It's probably because I'm playing this like a tabletop war game and not a real life scenario where actual lives are on the line. So I'm making risks and plays that I probably shouldn't. Like I said, that air raid I made earlier was pretty unrealistic, and it was my decision to not care about clubs. So that was partially self-inflicted. But I already want to jump right back into this game and see if I can limit those clubs. Like, can I win a victory and maintain clubs, or can I go for a total victory? I also kind of want to play as the Iraq side as well. But at any rate, that's that. I'm going to clean up some things, and I'm going to refit 2 units. Probably going to refit some of these tank units under threat, especially like these high-cost Abrams. Those I cannot afford to lose. My air mobile units are also under threat. We will see. I've got a tough decision. 2 people to refit, and then my turn is over, and we'll start turn 6. All right, Iraqi game turn 6 has gone by pretty quickly. She played Iraqi aircraft escape to Iran. So that gave her 1 spade point, and she sacrificed her MiG-21, and in return, she got to refit 2 units. She hasn't done that yet. Okay, then I played Iraqi Air Force flees to Iran. I really needed that. Needed a 1 to a 4. It would have let me choose and eliminate 1 plane of hers, and I would have gotten that pesky MiG-29, but I rolled a 6, so I didn't roll a 1 to 4, so I didn't get this, unfortunately. She ran no air missions, and she continued to consolidate around key strong points, so she's got some tanks around bridges, repositioned and stuff. She did strike at these tanks with this infantry, stalemate all around. Here, these infantry shot at this Abrams, and they got knocked back a step. These infantry, on a 1, finished off these Abrams, and with a 5, they failed to hit back. So this group of the 1st Armored, whoa, come on, can't see it. Well, oh well. Yeah, this group of the 1st Armored here, gone. That's the first land unit that I have lost, and that was a big one. I was debating refitting them last turn. I actually flipped them, and then I flipped them back over. And I used my double refit for my F-16s because I really want to try to pin down her remaining fighters, and I'm wondering if that was maybe a mistake now. Because she got rid of one of hers anyway, so whatever. These infantry took a shot at this challenger group, and neither hit. So that wraps up ground combat. Over to my turn. Okay, turn 6 coalition. The air war was good this turn. So she played unguided bombs inaccurate. It did not work, and I'm glad it didn't, because that would have debuffed my B-52s and given them a +2. So sorry, I think a -2. So they would have had to roll even lower to hit. And I succeeded at entrenchments ineffective, and that gave me 1 spade. And the Iraqi forces, I believe entrenchments, it means they can't retreat this turn. Let me just confirm. Entrenchments ineffective, yep, no Iraqi unit may retreat this turn. So then I ran some bombing runs. This B-52 and this F-16, they knocked out a full strength. They reduced and then killed an Iraqi Republican Guard unit. Over here, this B-52 and F-16, the F-16 had a technical mishap and had to flip over, but we did at least reduce that Iraqi Republican Guard. Over here, near, what is this? Naziria, this F-16, and this AC-130 reduced and then killed an Iraqi Republican Guard T-72 group. So that's gone. Over here, this Apache cleaned up these infantry that were fleeing this airbase in the swamp, so they're gone. And then down here we had a few fights. So A-10 made a run on these infantry, cleaned them up. F-111 cleaned up these infantry. And then a bit of a fight here. She brought in her Mirage and her MiG-29. She actually did manage to kill one of my F-16s with her 29 and wound my Tornado with her Mirage. But the Tornado finished off these infantry. So a good number of kills, got some Republican Guard tanks, wounded 1 but killed 2 that were full strength, and then wiped up all the rest of the infantry down here in northern Kuwait. So Kuwait is fully mine. I can move in and capture the last of these burning oil fields, and well, that will be that for that. Okay, I will move into my ground phase now. And I'm really, this 29 is a headache. I've got to do something about this pesky MiG. I had a card for it, but that card is gone. Gosh, I lost an F-16. Limited ground combat this time around. I've got the 101st pushing up into the heart of Iraq here with the 82nd close behind. Here I had the Brits and the Americans push on this town here with this lone armored or mechanized division, and they held out against all fire. They actually reduced both of my units. Both my units attacked, failed to hit, and then the return fire reduced both. But you'll see that the Abrams there, I replenished them, so I refit them at the end of the turn. Down here, closer to Basra, and how do I pronounce this? This is Zubair. We had an Abrams attack the town and reduce 1 enemy unit. Their return fire was ineffective. So the rest of my stuff is kind of pushing up. I'm leaving the Saudis, the Syrians, and the Egyptians for the most part down south. The Omani and some of these other forces are coming up with me. I do have, I guess, a couple of Saudi joint units coming with me. But by and large, this combined push is going to try to take this highway up here along the Tigris. But that is the turn. Quite straightforward. Couple reductions to worry about here. But overall, no big surprises. Let's see what turn 7 brings. We're getting closer to the end. Okay, turn 7 off to a bang of a start. So both of us had some pretty killer cards and both failed. So these definitely would have been huge had they succeeded. She played Colleges Protest the War, 50% chance of succeeding, would have given her a heart and actually would have reduced my heart by 1. Where we stand right now, widening the gap like that would be really, really brutal this late in the game. So super lucky that didn't work. Then I played Republican Guard Idle, 50% chance of completing, give me 1 joker, and this would have prevented her from moving any of her Republican Guard units. Didn't work, so no dice there. Then, big move. So, again, I'm going to probably give her some flack for this one. I think this was a strategic mistake, but she's sick of my air units surviving. She's kind of had them dead to rights several times now. So she ran both her planes on them. The 101st is getting uncomfortably far up into her territory, and so she ran both planes on them. Of course, I responded with a pair of F-16s. Her 29 shunted my first one away, so he's kind of aborting. And this one did get reduced, but both my F-16s got kill shots. So the Iraqi Air Force is gone. Other than anti-air fire and the risk associated with that, I am now free to kind of prosecute whatever target I want. So I'll recall these home. One of them is wounded, one of them is not. And we'll go to her ground combat phase. And with that phase, some smarter decisions from her. So to my chagrin, she has moved down this Republican Guard T-72 group and the 18th Infantry Division. She struck at my exposed 3rd Mechanized, which was sort of guarding this group of walking wounded here. While I did manage to return fire and kill the Republican Guard T-72, which is, I still think, a pretty big win for me, her infantry managed to, with a roll of 2, finish the kill on my group here. So we both lost pretty important assets there. This round, hers, I think, again, a little more of a loss than mine, but still that's bad for me. So now all these wounded units are exposed. She chose not to attack here, which I think was wise because now I'm shooting into that town. Although with my air situation and the recent events, I think I'm feeling okay about it. And then she declined to attack down here and used her refit to restore this guy who'd been shot by the Abrams. So this is full strength again. I think I'm going to have to hit that town, and otherwise, things are turning around. I mean, points-wise, let's take a quick look. So clubs, she's won. Spades, I'm in the lead, but barely. Diamonds, I think I've won. So it's really a game of hearts and jokers. And jokers, she's winning on both. So she is still winning the game. I have to somehow turn around those two. Those are the ones that have been giving me trouble. But she's put up a really, really killer fight. We're going deep into turn 7 now, and she's still ahead. Coalition turn 7, so both cards played were related to the weather. She won on her roll, I won on mine. So I guess I canceled the effect of hers. Hers would have affected, I think, my movement rate, if I'm not mistaken. The weather worsens card, the movement of coalition units is halved, rounded down. So again, brutal, but my card's description was that it canceled weather worsens. So I will get, not that it matters, a club. And then let's bask in the glory of my air raids this turn. So B-52s eliminated an infantry division here, gone. AC-130 and F-111 knocked out both sides of this tank group that was parked on the other side of the river here. Warthog finished off these infantry here. Job done. Then here, a full strength armored unit, armored division, knocked out, won twice by, hit once by the Hornet, hit once by the Apache. Up here, a little less luck. This F-16 had no effect on target. This pair of, an F-16 and F-18? F-18 knocked these infantry, F-16 had no effect. But generally, just mopped up a lot of infantry and some tanks. So I think the momentum is changing. There's really not much left in terms of Iraqi ground forces now. So now I am going to have to, once I can clear this guy out here, I need to take to the roads and move post-haste toward Baghdad. I have, 3 turns left? Including the movement of this turn. So 4 turns left. Cutting it close. And I've taken quite a few casualties. I'm learning a lot about this game and the mechanics for the various roles and the chances you're taking. Things I underestimated are just how much a 1 in 6 chance means. I really, so many different times have I gone up against enemies where I'm like, there's no way that 1's going to land, and it does. Or 2s, that's a 1/3 chance if it's a 2. And so these Iraqi infantry are not to be underestimated. Woof. Okay, so let's get some ground units moving and see how the rest of the turn fares. Land combat has wrapped up. I ended up pushing these infantry out and destroying them, so they're gone. And then moving all of my units up into the city. So the post-combat movement phase did a whole bunch of single moves all around the place just to advance a little further. Kind of just taking control of these areas with some reduced units over here to put them to work. And then assaulted this city with both the 101st and 82nd. Didn't have a lot of luck, but kind of ran into a rules question that I wasn't super sure of. So the 101st, when they attacked, they did deal 1 damage, and then the Iraqi defenders shot back and dealt a damage. Well, potentially dealt a damage. They rolled a 2. On their healthy side, they have a 2 for their combat number. On their damage side, they have a 1. And I'm not super clear. It says, after a land attack has been resolved against an enemy-occupied hex, regardless of the outcome, they must roll. If there was more than 1 unit defending the hex, if the attack was, must roll on behalf of whichever defending land unit was just reduced. Just reduced. Not about to be reduced, but just reduced. So it sounds like this happens after the reduction of the enemy force, which means if they rolled a 2 and after they were reduced they were a 1, then that's a miss. So the 101st is still alive. But if for some reason they would get their roll off before the attacker applies the reduction to them, then the 101st would be out of here. So curious about that, but I'm pretty sure I'm interpreting that as it's after they're reduced. So that 2 would not have helped them. So that's my turn. I've done all my moves. I am going to refresh. I did a refresh. I refreshed the 82nd Airborne, who had been reduced earlier. So that's that. Not a huge amount of progress, but now I'm kind of just fully in control of Southeast Iraq. It's time to make my push up toward Baghdad. I anticipate this is going to be a pretty staunch defense, but man, I'm close. I'm so close. Her turn was super quick this time around. We both played Hearts cards. We're clearly in an arms race here for that. Media says 1,000 plus civilians died. That would have prevented me from bombing her, I think bombing Baghdad, and it would have given her a heart, but that did not work. And then Bush declares Saddam defeated. It would have required that her troops only retreat after combat, where I attack, rather than roll for defense. But I failed that too. So she mostly just kind of repositioned, did some minor shuffling. She brought some infantry down here from Hila to attack the 82nd Airborne. Didn't go so well. The attackers were reduced and the 82nd held strong. So that was that turn. And then she, for her refit, she gave this unit here a refit. So 82nd and 101st are going to continue to fight for Nayaf and hopefully succeed this round. Air round is done, so start of my turn, she played Civilians Bombed Accidentally, which gave her a heart. I actually responded by playing Most Disapprove of Protest, which gave me a heart, so we're still neck and neck up there. Her card means I cannot bomb any cities or any units within cities this round. So I had to sort of start selecting units that were outside of towns. Most Disapprove of Protests, if I had rolled a 1, I would have gotten another heart. Would have been nice, but I didn't. So ran some air raids just southwest of Fallujah. I had my B-52s knock out this infantry group here and revealed a chemical site, the Takadum chemical weapons site. I totally missed that earlier. I don't really need another spade right now, but I could always hit that later. And then I had an A-10 and AC-130 finished off some infantry who were here north of Musayyib who were a little exposed. No luck down here. F-111 went for these exposed guys who were attacking the 82nd Airborne and had either a technical mishap or some anti-air fire reduced them. So they are a little weakened right now. But that's my air phase. Now all of these highways, I'm going to have to cross as much land as possible. It is the end of turn 8, or about to be. I think I can reach Baghdad. It's gonna be cards that win it for me, I think, because these strong points in cities along these roads with these bridge crossings and whatnot, she's got a very good Scattered defensive position. Now, of course, once this card wears off and I can bomb their people in towns again, that may change, but this is looking very, very, very close for me. So we made a bit of a leap forward. So I've done both my combat and then the beginning of her turn. So my combat, really just mostly, you can see it, pushing tanks, groups, armored groups up and up and up and up these roads here as fast as we can. Over here, really shit luck, honestly. 82nd Airborne attacked this infantry unit here. They were unaffected, and in the beginning of her turn, she retreated them. Here, I took some shots at this town where this infantry was previously reduced. They rolled their lucky 1 and took out the 101st Airborne. So that was that. Really unfortunate. And then on her turn, of course, she didn't attack and she reinforced these guys. So this town is becoming a real headache. I'm probably just going to have to bypass it. We both played cards at the beginning of her turn. She played media reports Highway of Death. If she had succeeded, she would have gotten a heart, and I would not have been able to bomb any of her units. Doesn't really matter because it's not my turn to bomb, but the heart would have been good. But she failed, and I succeeded. So Ghosts of Vietnam Buried gave me 1 heart, so we are now tied on hearts. And I rolled 1 die and subtracted that many clubs. I rolled a 1, unfortunately. Had I rolled a 6, maybe some of these military sites would have been back on the menu. I don't know. But that was that. Her turn was pretty simple. She's very defensive at this point, and I think it's just really coming down to the cards and the very last few fights. I'm going to go ahead and move these off the board. Yeah, I'll take my turn 9. Okay, another really exciting turn. So a lot of twists and turns. She played Powell proposes a ceasefire, gave her a joker point. She's squarely ahead on that side. I don't think I'm going to win a political victory here. And Powell proposes ceasefire is brutal. No coalition land units in Iraq may be moved this movement phase. So all of my troops north of Kuwait here are grounded for this turn. They're immobile. I did also, though, pull off Kuwait City liberated. So that gave me a heart. I'm in the lead there, which puts me in the lead for the game. Just. And because there are no Iraqi units in Kuwait City, they lost another club. So that was that. I also went ahead and did my air raids. So B-52s cleaned out the city of Kut. So even though I can't move this turn, these guys are gone. Then the same thing here. This Hornet hit, what is that? An Numania. Saying that I'm butchering these, but I'm attempting. I would love it if anybody in the comments knew how to pronounce these, if they could give them to me. But cleaned out that area. Nayaf, the A-10 and the AC-130 here did that trick. So the 101st is avenged and the 82nd is free to go ahead and move on to their next target. This Hornet here hit Hila, where those troops retreating from the 82nd were finished off. And then I had an Apache and an F-16 strike Al Suwaira and reduce the unit there. So a lot of successful air missions this round, but unfortunately that's my turn. So because we can't move, is it during the movement phase or is it also including the after combat phase? Movement phase. So I can move my land units 1. So I'll go ahead and do that and restore something. Restore one thing. What do I want to restore? Probably I'm going to restore this Abrams group right there. Okay, turn 10 has concluded, and with that is the game. You didn't miss anything, so let me just cover what we did. Went ahead and took both of our turns because there was little to do. It came down to cards in the very end. So on her turn of, or her I guess phase of turn 10, how do I call that? Turn of turn 10? Because it says game turn, so we're on that turn, but it's the player's, I guess the player's round or something. I should double check that in the rules. Anyway, so a couple cards here. Iraqi soldiers abduct Kuwaitis. She succeeded on that and got herself a spade. Also succeeded subsequent round on another with a spade and brought herself right neck and neck with me right there. I failed on this heart roll and on this joker roll. So with that, I said, okay, I don't need to make any more raids or moves. I could have, if I really needed that extra spade, could have moved that on my turn if I was really concerned about anything. But I don't want to risk losing any more units. I have victory, but man, is it really close? We each have like a crazy lead in one area, and frankly, with some of those late cards that I was getting from her, like what if the one where I was reducing the clubs, if I had rolled more than one, if I'd rolled a 6 or something, I might have been able to, let's see, strike. Were there all that many sites left? I think there was like one missile site somewhere. So maybe not. Maybe I wouldn't have been able to win clubs, but even that was coming back some. Diamonds, I don't know. She didn't really play any diamond cards, and there's not a lot that she can do for diamonds. Like, I guess, she could capture back some of her like oil and gas assets and stuff. So that might be one thing. But hearts, spades, jokers, those were neck and neck the whole game. And that's frankly how a lot of the war went in real life. So how did this pan out? Let's see. The Iraqis won the political achievement. So they have kind of made political fools of the United States. Spade, the U.S. won in proving that the Iraqis were the moral, I guess the worst of two evils here, if you will. They had all those weapons facilities and whatnot that I was able to eliminate and prove to the world that my cause was just. Diplomatic achievement, I won as well. So I like to think that because I didn't need to strike at Baghdad and I really, really focused just on military targets, I proved that my war aims were correct. She won military achievement. She revealed, I guess it says, reveal the inferiority of enemy's armed forces. Look at this. Again, excluding these like special game tokens, these were the Iraqi losses, these were the US losses. But there are a lot of reduced US units on the board and in the airfields. Virtually everything to do with the Marine forces, both from their planes and both expeditionary units, have all been reduced. So we took a lot of casualties pushing in on this territory. It was really, really a lot bloodier than I thought. I was, rolling what felt like pretty average rolls, and it helps that, the coalition forces have such high numbers. So when I'm rolling for a 6 or a 5, success is nearly guaranteed. But when she was rolling back to back to back 1s and 2s, I mean, what a rally. It was really, really intense. The diamonds, I captured a lot early on, and I kind of maintained control of that economic situation, either destroying her economic sites or seizing them. Maybe she could have done more by shuffling her units around in some of the areas where she did have some degree of success, to like retake some of those territories and get a few diamond points. But, I don't know. I'm pleased. I'm pleased that it was so close a game that really the victor was unclear until, like, honestly, the last turn and a half or so. It was a race. It was a real race. It was a race for Baghdad. I mean, I needed Baghdad, and it was cool that I was just pushing as fast as I could. And suddenly, down here, it's a slog, and it's just constant casualties on both sides. But then when you get to this sort of mid to late game setup, suddenly the bridges and the city locations and the rivers make a lot more sense, and how they sort of coded, if you will, or built this game out the way that they did. I know that the map that they use for the sort of sequel / expansion, 30 Days to Baghdad, makes a lot more use of central and northern Iraq. Of course, there's going to be a lot more centered around Fallujah and all of that. So keen to play that, especially with the lessons learned from this game. I think that, Katie and I both are learning like really quickly from the types of games that we play, but this one being simpler than some of the other stuff we've played, like Next War and some of the Mark Semenich like war games, which are not super complex. We did North Africa 40, was it called 43, North Africa 43? Or 41? No, I think it's 41. Yeah, of course it's 41. There's just so much more going on in this. This plays fast. This was a lot faster to learn to play. It felt closer. I don't know. Sometimes in some of those other games, it feels like one person can kind of run away with victory. Maybe it's because we're such learners. And you can see here, I mean, I'm sure those of you who are seasoned war gamers or know what they're doing, and I don't, you probably saw like across the map, I was making a lot of little mistakes in a hurry. She, of course, made some mistakes that I was pointing out in my narration with how she handled some of her air units and some of the turns where she decided to attack when she really didn't need to. So I think we both made mistakes. I think I probably made more. I was probably really gung-ho. You know, I love this stuff. I'm super interested in it. So I'm like, hell yeah, first armored and the 24th mechanized. And I'm seeing these guys go into action. I love these planes that we're playing with. And I want to use the assets. But of course, just wanton use of those assets and not really thinking about min-maxing your strikes and your deployment of those assets means that they're going to get burned doing really stupid side tasks. So a lot more optimization to be had. And I wouldn't say this is a simple war game, but I would say for how quick it is to learn and how straightforward and simple it is, there's a great level of depth and balance. Criticisms or concerns, I mean, obviously we talked about this, but this little expansion booklet has some issues. The cards, you know, some are just objectively worse. And if you have them, there's really no sense in using them except for what would you get from them up top. So I don't know. If I go back, I mean, rewind to that Nighthawk one with the F117. I'm not going to look at the cards right now, but maybe the card suit was more important now that I understand that like hearts jokers are so vital. But definitely, I mean, at least one error with that, turn to turn card, where it was like a turn 3 card that Mother of All Battles card. Patriots Deployed, that card. That's an issue I think that they could fix. But the base game itself, like what's here on this map, this plays well. I've said it twice, but it's hard to keep those clubs down, to keep the Iraqis from building up those clubs. That's probably part of intentional design. Part of me wants it to be a ruthless duel for every single one of these, but frankly, I'm not super clear on how the Iraqis could keep up on the diamond, and I'm not super sure how the coalition can prevent casualties. I mean, I guess constantly outflanking the Iraqi forces and dictating the terms of the battle. And maybe she was getting lucky with some of her air interdiction rolls and some of those infantry defense rolls. Maybe she wasn't. But I do know that the other Let's Play that I watched on YouTube, I think it was Zilla's, he also kind of had a runaway clubs marker, and it seemed like he also stopped worrying about it so much as a coalition player. Anyway, this is a great game. Very pleased with it. Accurate Simulations, Eric Harvey, really good work. I'm very stoked to play 30 Days to Baghdad. That is coming up next. And I want to play this again. I want to introduce this to more of my friends because I think this is super approachable. And both sides play so differently that, like, I now want to play as the Iraq side. I know Katie wants to try the coalition side. And I think it's going to play very differently the next time around. Also because of, and a lot of you didn't see this because this wasn't necessarily a rules instruction video, but like a playthrough. As you draw these cards, they're two-sided. So you're making go, no-go decisions on which side you're using, but you also draw 3, discard 1. So there were entire cards, 1 per turn specifically, whose 2 sides I didn't see, didn't get to really interact with and play. And just a couple cursory glances through some of the flavor text on those indicates that there's a lot more replayability under the hood. So I don't know what else to say. Fantastic game. Hope you all enjoyed watching this. This is my first attempt at making kind of a board game Let's Play video. But I am super into these war games and kind of interested in doing more. Not stopping my combat mission stuff, but maybe adding this in with the rotation. Cheers. Hope everybody has a great one. See ya.